made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. Before we dive into this powerful episode, please remember to subscribe to our channel and give us a 5-star rating on iTunes and continue hustling. This episode is sponsored by Imaging Services, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Moguls, Chiropractic Rocks, True Weight Solutions, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, doTERRA, Sherman College of Chiropractic, SCED, New Patients in a Box, the Influencer Authority Podcast Training, and Prime Spine Consulting. Let's hustle.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 305 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. I am your co-host Luke Millette, and here's your host Jim Chester.
So today we had the opportunity of interviewing Dr. Mary Helen Hensley. And if you want to understand more about chiropractic as lifestyle care, stay tuned. Welcome back. It's another episode of the Chiro Hustle podcast. Today, my co-host Luke Millette's coming in from
Ann Arbor, Michigan.
And I'm coming in from the beautiful state of Colorado out here in Grand Junction. And today we have the honor of having episode 305 with Mary Helen Hensley. And you're coming in from the center of Ireland, a place called Athlone. And I think this might be one of our first interviews ever from Ireland, Luke.
I think so.
Well, Mary Helen, yeah, thank you for being on our show today. What time is it over there now?
What time is it? About 20 past 8.
Okay,
PM.
so it's nighttime over in Ireland, and it's 1:22 p.m. over here in Grand Junction. I think Luke's 2 hours ahead of me, so he's closer to you.
All right.
So without any further, the chiropractic story matters to our audience, and I know that people are going to be listening to this. Your patients, your family, colleagues, future students. People all across the world will be listening to this episode. And before we get started into it, I just want to set the ground rules. We protect free speech in chiropractic. We also protect the sacred trust. If you guys don't know what that is, get out your Google fingers and go look at the sacred trust of chiropractic. And we protect subluxation-based chiropractors and keeping the lexicon in the profession and not being manipulated by someone else's cause. So just because people don't understand chiropractic the way they need to, that's why our show exists. And with that being said, can you share with us your chiropractic story and what influenced you to join into the chiropractic profession?
Well, mine is a quite unusual story. I lived in Charleston, South Carolina. As you can tell, this is not an Irish accent. I'm from Virginia originally. And I was in Charleston in December of 1991, and I was involved in a collision. I was hit 75 miles per hour and broke my neck. So I have written extensively, many books on near death, and I had a quite an extensive near death experience, but my body that I returned to was quite messed up. So like I said, broken neck, pretty much my spine was knocked into the shape of a backwards C. And I had a lot of difficulties. And there was a chiropractor in Charleston, Dr. Anthony Ross, he was a Sherman graduate, which is where I ended up going to school. And the most beautiful thing as you're trying to find your feet again, and you're literally learning how to do everything again, you're moving again differently, you're learning to swallow, you're learning all sorts of simple things that we take for granted. He took the time to educate me throughout my process. And this was what was key. So I didn't just go in, show up for my adjustment, boom, 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 and I was out. He educated me every single step of the way. And it wasn't, this is something I do in my own practice. It wasn't just let me give you all of the information up front at once, because a lot of people, they're in pain or they're frightened or, they're there because their cousin told them you were good, or, people come for a variety of reasons. And so what he did was he slowly and surely educated me as to not how this was just going to change my life and restore function post accident, but how this was going to change my life completely. And he took every visit to teach me something new, to talk to me, not to talk over me, not to try and wow me with his, amazing knowledge of the human body, but to actually involve me in the conversation. And this is something that I do with people. And I think probably why I'm as successful as I am at what I do, because people always feel like we're having that one-on-one conversation where it's specific to them and what's going on. And there is no area of life where you cannot find an analogy that's going to strike it home for somebody. It's like telling the mechanic, why would you put new tires on a car that's out of alignment? And they're like, oh, or you tell I have lots of farmers, and you use examples about how nature works within. They're like, oh, okay. Because when you start throwing a bunch of big words and things that are confusing to people, that make you look fantastic, but make them feel less than or less knowledgeable about their body, you've already lost them. And so he was amazing in that he educated me along the way, so much so that I could taste it. I wanted to be a chiropractor so badly.
And now that you are a practitioner, what are some things that you would say would make you different or make you stand out from other practitioners in your area?
Well, Ireland is interesting because there are not that many of us. So, when I first came to town, it was like, the Irish would be like, who's your one? What's this? They didn't know what chiropractic was. And there certainly wasn't any legislation in place. The vast majority of people had no idea that I was a doctor. And it wasn't something that I felt like was the most important point there. It was establishing that rapport and becoming a part of my community, and slowly but surely bringing them into my world. I have never, in 22 years practice, I've never advertised a single day. Every single patient that I have is word of mouth, every single one. And funny story, I was just this weekend getting a tattoo of my journey. And the girl who was my tattoo artist started with me in knee socks. She was in her little school uniform when she first came in. And I promised her many, many years ago, I said, when it's time for my tattoo now, I'll be there, because she knew from the time she was quite young. And the beauty of my practice is I've watched these kids grow up. I've watched my parents become grandparents. I've watched, I've treated somebody today who was 90 years old, and I have such an incredible retention. So these people are family. It is, I'm part of their life. They call me first before they call anything and go, tell me what you know about this. And here's what's happening. And, I've been to all the weddings and the christenings and the funerals, and it's really an amazing thing, because I don't know too many people who talk that way about their own general practitioner. It's just different, because when you embody that vitalistic approach to your practice, you also embody that vitalistic approach to life. And so, you show up for people and you're there. And many's a day when people get, they're explaining a story or telling something, I'm crying right along with them. And just because I care, and because they're part of my own story, and we've grown together, the time and attention that they've taken to their own lives and their own health care. And by supporting me in my business, I've raised my 2 children by myself on that. We're family. They all know what my girls are doing. They all know that they show up to the office if they want to bring presents. Back in the day, it used to be bottles of wine that's what the Irish do. They'd come in with bottles of wine, and I'm like, and they'd still be sitting there 6 months later. And so then it became food. And I was like, yes, now they know me. And, we just have this amazing kind of relationship. I got out from day one in my community. I love music. I also do a lot of work with frequency because of things that happened in that accident. And music is just essential to me. And so this was the way I connected with my community. I went out, I started playing in sessions in pubs in Ireland, and I'm a bodhrán player and a singer, and I got to know people, and they're like, oh, right, okay, and so then somebody go, I've got this thing going on, as it always happens. And so we'd have a chat, and then you have that opportunity to go, well, it's not really about that. That's not what I do. Let me explain to you what I do actually do. And so many dialogues opened up, and I became part of of my community. And that was how I did it. And, you know, it's just been wonderful to be able to be present and part of generations, literally generations now of families. I'll be into my third generation now of people.
Yeah, it's really cool to hear community involvement. And it sounds like, you know, kind of a frontierswoman story of going somewhere where the chiropractic profession really wasn't known or understood. And you started a little oasis for people to come to and to be a part of a community and to rise up a better quotient for health and giving people options to make decisions for them and their family. And, you know, I think that that's really what a lot of young practitioners or seasoned practitioners look to do is they want to be involved within their they want to build a family outside of their house and they want to feel good about going to work. And I think that when people build that community around them, yeah, there's not another day you'll work because you just do what innately comes out of you, which is taking care of people. And I think that that's really beautiful. When
And
you
the
see, like,
atmosphere that you create, you know, the
yeah,
atmosphere that you create in that. Like I have my, you know, my PR at the front desk is a little dog called Trixie. And um, back when this whole lockdown thing started and all that, people were getting anxious and conversations were getting a little heated in the waiting room. And I was like, what can I do to change that vibe? And so in came Trixie. And everybody loves it. Everybody loves a Cavapoo. And Trixie the Cavapoo walks up and greets everybody when they come in. And when conversations just started diverting to, oh, how cute. Isn't Trixie amazing? She belongs to my office manager. And people started talking about the dog, their own pets. Everybody had an animal story, and it changed the course of the conversation. And so that's, you know, that's my responsibility. I've created the world that I want to work within. It's very hard to call it work because, you know, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to go and my patients are like, why are you wearing that costume? And I was like, oh, these are actually my regular clothes. And our environment is really fun. Or if I know that I've got a child who's coming in on that day who's autistic and I know they happen to like whales, I've got whales and music playing on the computer. It's going out and creating an atmosphere that you would want you and your family to be welcomed into. It's not clinical at all. It's really fun. Everybody's laughing. It's a really fun place to be. And the funny part is trying to get people out the door when we're done because they don't want to go. So, you know, that's when you know you're doing a good job of creating a good atmosphere.
Well, it sounds like you do an amazing job taking care of your patients, but what are some things you do for your own health and your family's health?
Well, obviously, number one is getting adjusted. I get adjusted regularly, and so do my children from the second that they popped out. That's an essential part of our lives. And again, that atmosphere that I have created, because, you know, that triune of life, that mind, body, spirit element, we take quite seriously. And creating a healthy space mentally to go into every day is such an important part of the work that I do. I don't wake up and go, oh, I got to go to work today. I mean, it's not work. I get to go into this place and have so much fun with people. And I love to talk and I love to teach. I'm just going in and doing what I love. And so I've been able to show my children that that's success. It's not about the money. It's not about, you know, of course we want to make a living and be able to do the things that we enjoy doing. But success is being able to go into that space and being just as on fire when you leave at the end of the day as you were when you arrived in the morning. And I will say that's probably the greatest compliment that people give me. Are you not tired? Have you not been here 9 hours today already? Yes, I have. How are you like that? Because I like what I do, you know, and it's, that's a huge part of keeping myself and my family well, is making sure that we're doing what we love, that we practice what we preach, and that we, it's really standing to us right now. And it's beautiful, especially in this time, watching my girls tell the story, watching my girls explain. Both of my children are in performing arts college. And so they're kind of the go-to doctors in their schools, because they know what, their friends know what I do. They've always got questions every weekend when they come home. Okay, this one's got this going on, this one. I said, and what did you say? And you were saying, well, I wanted to explain to him that, that the body doesn't need any help. It just needs no interference. And so it sounds like they've got interference in this area, and they need to da-da-da-da. And I'm like, yes. And I'm hearing them telling the story in their own words. And it doesn't have to be with all the medical terms. It has to be with the passion. It has to be with that understanding that they know that they are the way they are because of the care that they've taken of themselves. And so especially now, when they are very much so in the minority within their peer group, people are like, how are you not scared? How are you not, why are you this way? Why are you that way? And the girls are able to answer in truth, because I've always taken care of myself. Just because you guys are in crisis mode right now, I don't have to be in crisis mode, because I've always looked after myself. I've always been doing the things necessary to function at 100% of what I'm capable of. And that is amazing. And that's how I know that they're going to be okay.
You've made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. This episode is sponsored by Imaging Services, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Moguls, Chiropractic Rocks, True Weight Solutions, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, doTERRA, Sherman College of Chiropractic, SCED, New Patients in a Box, the Influencer Authority Podcast Training, and Prime Spine Consulting. Let's hustle. Yeah, it's cool to hear the certainty with the way that you practice. And we've always heard this, that if you do what you love to do, you'll never work another day in your life. And it sounds like that's the mantra and the theme that you live by is, how could you be tired after you've done everything that you want to do throughout the course of your day to take care of people? And I think that's your innate. That's your ability to do great things. And I just want to go back to a different building block here. Is you said that you never done any advertising, or you never done any type of marketing. It's all been word of mouth. How challenging was that for you when you first started? Was that challenging? And what would you maybe give advice to somebody today, and the struggle or the upstart when it comes to marketing? And I know you can glean on that you haven't done it yourself, but was it challenging when you first started doing that? And do you have any advice for somebody that's another chiropractor that's wanting to get new patients or to grow their practice?
The education is essential. I was so blessed that the school that I landed in was Sherman College of Chiropractic, and the balance between the philosophy, the science, and the art was just everything. And being able to talk about what was happening in the body, being able to adequately and simply explain to people how incredibly miraculous the body was, that was a huge part of the education that really has stood to me all throughout my career. Because, starting out as the new kid in town, and you can imagine it was in the 90s. I've arrived. I'm fresh off the boat from America. They're making fun of my accent and in good humor and all. I was called everything from the local witch doctor to, and what was funny was when a doctor would go to get insurance as a chiropractor back in that day, we were in the same category as the people who did like eyebrows and leg waxing, and it was completely misunderstood, which has been amazing, because in the last 2 years, with all the challenges that we've faced, the lack of regulation of chiropractic has left me untouchable. It means that my door is always open. There was no regulation from the health services of Ireland about shutting me down. I see all of the police in my town. And so when people would call and go, hey, she's not wearing a mask, they're like, I'll talk to you later because I actually have an appointment. And, getting out in the community and taking care of the ambulance drivers and the paramedics and the nurses and the doctors and the midwives. And I am now the one when people, when people are calling their doctors and getting a secretary who's prescribing something over the phone, they're like, this isn't okay. And the penny is dropping. Years and years of constant, steady education with these people is now paying off. So in the beginning, it was quick. Like it was a matter of months because I can talk the game, and I would get people in, explain it to them, and they would see the benefits. And I was also very, very open with people about the importance of not associating pain with health and explaining to them that when the body is functioning as intended, that sometimes pain can be your very best friend. And when you're moving things around in the body and you're experiencing different sensations, that this can be a very positive thing because it means the body is responding. And it was that hardcore education. So they wouldn't go, oh, that story you hear, oh, I went to the chiropractor and I was worse after. You don't ever hear that because my people don't go out the door from day one of that practice without knowing and expecting even and arriving in disappointed, say, if they didn't feel something, because I had really talked it up so much and explained it so that they were like, oh, okay, here, that's going to happen. I'm expecting this to happen in my body. So they were educated from day one. So it really wasn't hard. So to any new practitioner, I would say, get in there. It stands to itself. Just tell the story. Because if you're trying to force people to join the ranks, it never works. And you're going to, get angry and chase down the people. But I did tell you that this is something that you have to make a part of your lifestyle. And I haven't seen you in 2 years. And now here you appear. Human beings don't work like that. And so you don't take it personally. And it's not an affront to you as a practitioner or to chiropractic. And if you just go, okay, how would you want to be treated? Because anybody who's ever, let's say, been on a diet and did really, really well and then fell off the wagon, how would you want to be received, by others and by yourself if you decided to get back on the wagon? Would you want a big fat lecture about, okay, loser, I can't believe you let yourself down like this? Or would you want to be welcomed back in going, yes, you're back on, let's do this. And so it's always been about encouraging people. And the more people are encouraged, the better they're going to respond to the care. The better they're going to respond to the idea, oh, wait a minute, this actually is part of a lifestyle. And so, in a community in Ireland where when I first arrived here, when they would go to the gym, it would be like for a 6-week session. The concept of long-term anything in this country did not exist. That was not part of the ethos or mentality of the community. So when I come in and I go, look, this is, we're starting something that you're going to treasure for the rest of your life. They're like, what? I thought I was only supposed to come, when I wasn't feeling right. And I said, no, you're thinking of allopathic medicine.
So how do you see chiropractic changing and developing over the next 20 years? Maybe not just necessarily over here in the States, but maybe over there in Ireland too.
Well, what's been so interesting about living abroad and practicing chiropractic is, and especially coming to a country where it was like stepping back in time. And it's been very slow to develop, and where that was initially for all of my colleagues and myself kind of frustrating because nothing seemed to be progressing or moving forward. But so interesting, little did anybody know that during this pandemic, that's been the best thing that could have happened to the profession. We've literally been able to just step out open our doors all the way through the pandemic, explain what we're doing, explain why we were doing what we were doing. And also, we were able to explain to people why we weren't beholden to the health services of Ireland because of non-inclusion all the way through. So that set of rules didn't apply to us. And that has been fascinating. So it's really interesting now with the way the world is to answer that question, because it's like, as we steer through the next year or two of these changes that are going on, it'll be very interesting to see what will happen. Will it be more regulation? Will it be less regulation? But what I do know is that more people than ever are seeking the services of chiropractic here in this country than I've ever seen in all the years I've lived here.
That's a really cool analysis. I think everybody has their own idea of what's going to happen, and they have a feeling of how things are going. And some people feel like lack of regulation, like you feel, is helpful for you to practice freely. But we have to think about the other 99% of the people that are being lambasted with an agenda that makes it harder for them to, as we said, go to work. And some people just don't feel good, and they're looking for an outside source like chiropractic to say, hey, I'm kind of feeling bad about most things. And by the way, it's psychosomatic, and now I have this hip pain.
Right, exactly.
And I have a really crummy feeling about most things. And you know what? My headaches are intensifying, and I'm not sleeping. And by the way, when I do sleep, I have this thing that's going down my arm, and it doesn't feel good. And I think what you're finding is the door has become a line to the door, and people are looking for that chiropractor in their community to be that caregiver. And it's a care of health system and not a healthcare system. I've said that time and time again. And chiropractors care for your health, and they're advocates for a healthy family. They're advocates for a healthy community. They're advocates for body health, individual, family, the whole thing. And it's been really cool to hear your story about how you came somewhere, you didn't know anybody, and you started a line to your door 21 years later, and you've stayed in your lane doing what you do best and taking care of your community. I know we haven't had a whole lot of time to ask you questions about like philosophy or heroes or people that have helped you become the person that you are today. But if you had a chance to say like 2 to 3 people that helped you become who you are today, they could be chiropractic, or they could be from any other walk of life, could be parents, could be kids. Who would you say have been some of your heroes and influences to get you where you are today?
Well, I mentioned the first one. That's Dr. Anthony Ross, who was on Johns Island in Charleston, South Carolina, for taking the time to care enough to educate me about what was happening in my body, rather than just fixing. Because as you both know, you can't just fix something. It is a team effort, and the individual, the more knowledge they have, the more empowered they are in their own healing process. So, and who else? I used to work for Reggie and Irene Gold when I graduated from chiropractic school. So that was a lot of fun. Talk about 2 great characters. So I got to immerse, in the guts and glory of it all. And that was quite an amazing experience. And it was actually funny, Reggie, who said to me way back, after a shoulder injury that he had, take care of your body. And if I were the president of a chiropractic college right now, the very first thing I would do was implement a system within where the budding doctor was taught, not just via adjustment, because that's, they're there because they understand the importance of the adjustment, but also the care of the body on a day-to-day basis. Far more emphasis on personal care, because we're going to be out there giving and serving. That's for the rest of our career, and highlighting for the young practitioner how important it is to stretch and to do yoga and to eat right and to hydrate. That's something, and I think probably some schools are doing that, but to me, it's this as important as teaching business, as important as running the business, because if you're not able to show up to do it, what's the point? So really knowing that as an individual who's going to always be in service, and it's not, you don't get to stop being a chiropractor at 7 o'clock, when the doors close. You are a chiropractor through and through, 24/7, because it's a philosophy and it's a way of living. It is a mindset that is just so different than the vast majority um, of our population experiences. And so, what I think is amazing right now, and especially for young practitioners who might be quite discouraged because of the state of the world and what's going on, there's never been a better time to be a chiropractor than right now, because you've got people who are being, I don't know what it's like really in the States so much, but here, you can't get into a GP. The waiting lists are a mile long. A lot of them have just announced that you can't attend if you're not vaccinated. There's lots of different reasons that people aren't able to avail of the type of health services that they used to. And they're looking elsewhere. And then they'll go, oh, my brother went to that chiropractor down the road. I didn't realize it was about more than just fixing your sore hip, or, you got a headache or whatever. And the word spreads. So for any, up and coming practitioner, do not be discouraged about the state of what's going on. This is your time. We're shining. We can't get help over here. I have been looking for help for ages, and so have about 65 other chiropractors here in Ireland, because we need help. We're inundated with people. We are flying it because people are starting to look outside of the old model. And so this is an amazing time to be getting into the profession, and never, ever, ever has it been a better time to deliver that message to people, and to have it as a career, as a passion, as a profession, and to change the course of the direction that communities are taking. So hang in there, guys. It's your time.
And on the topic of time, we are just about out of hours. So, Mary, maybe if you could wrap up with a miracle story you've seen in your office, and then follow up with some of your websites and where people can get a hold of you.
How on earth does one do one miracle story when every day is a miracle, honestly? And I don't say that to be cliche. It is, because miracles mean different things to different people. So, one of my favorite people is a little fella called Liam. And Liam started with me when he was probably 3. He's nonverbal, autistic. And when he first started coming into the office, his mom just looked exhausted, and all he could do was scream. And I mean, if you've ever been around an autistic child who is in that position where they're just screaming, the veins are bulging out of the head, he was just distraught. And so Liam is now 8 years old, and he is the funniest, most incredible little guy that you've ever met. And watching the transition that chiropractic has made in his life, we're the best of buddies, and we have this incredible rapport and this amazing trust between us. But now he walks in, and his thing, he'll go over and he'll pick up an activator and he'll show me exactly where it is. He can't say it to me. He'll go, this is out, this is out, this is out. He'll roll it. Watching it is just absolutely incredible, because he knows at 8 years of age his body so well. And he also knows that he went from a state where he was in complete and utter distress 24/7 to this space of ease where he is able to live his best life at 100% of what he came here to be. So rather than trying to alter what their story is and what their journey here, what their human experience is meant to be, you're simply there to serve and enhance. And it was so amazing for him to click and to know that that's what we do. And so he has there's a picture of me at their house. And so when it's, he comes weekly anyway, but if anything is going on, he'll go up and he points to my picture so they know, oh, we need to go in. And, I think that's miraculous, because it's made not only a change in his own life and the potential of what he's going to become, but it's changed the way his family views him. They're watching the living miracle that is this child.
It's awesome. So, what are some of your websites? Where can people find you on the web?
I'm simple. I'm MaryHelenHensley.com.
Well, Mary, thank you for being our guest today. Thank you for taking some time out of your evening of being a chiropractor 24/7. And thank you for being on the Chiro Hustle podcast as episode 305. And it was enlightening to hear your story. And I appreciate the path that you've been on and that you'll continue to be on. And it's empowering to hear the story that you go out there and become a healer out there in the middle of Ireland and doing with the work that you do and raising the family that you have and being able to be a resource to your community for their health and for their answers and for their cousins' health and for their mom's answers and for the community involvement to have a place to go. And I know that we're in crazy times right now with the way people think about health and what they should do for themselves and their families. So thank you for being a chiropractor.
Thank you so much. And thanks for what you guys are doing. You're creating a platform that is spreading the good news. And I appreciate it very much.
And we appreciate you being our guest today, Dr. Mary, and we want you to enjoy the rest of your evening out there in beautiful Ireland.
Thank you.
All right. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye, guys. Come visit.
Bye for now. Thanks for listening to Chiro Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.